Bangalore has been set back 100 years. You would never have the Jayadeva kind of incident.
Like, people are okay with anything as long as the politicians don't come in way of their illegal structures, and don't question them about their footpath gardens, and don't stop them from getting their dogs poop in front of somebody else's house. Then you're actually a very nice person, and they won't come to your domain questioning you.
Rajaji, Sardar Patel, Nehru, Bose, Rajendra Prasad, all of them pre-independence, before we got our constitution, they cut their teeth.
How you can have narrow roads and still not have traffic jams? Mr. Modi not able to do it with his smart city ideas. Are you a do-gooder? Dear viewers, this is going to be a special podcast once again, because my guest would be speaking about a lot of things, and most importantly about Bangalore and his experience in trying to make Bangalore better. Let me tell you, he has many other things to speak about too, and some of his fans, if he has some,
I hope so,
would certainly be disappointed, because this is not going to be an interview but more of a dialogue. And the purpose of this dialogue would be that we need to explore, to find out as to what we can do for this beautiful city of ours, and also to see that civilizationally how we are proceeding as people. Talking about our buildings, to our culture, to our lifestyle, to how we are living in a city like Bangalore. My guest today is Ravi Chandra. Warm welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thank you, Deepak, for having me.
It's always been a pleasure, because we've been speaking for almost over a decade and a half.
Yes, that's right.
So this conversation is more of a conversation and not an interview, because, you know, this cannot be an interview, because I've been seeing you for a long time. You've been seeing me for a long time. We have a lot of catching up to do, and
That's true.
I thought it was appropriate for us to speak at this moment with the new minister in charge of Bangalore development, having some ideas which are in some sense a bit radical, and in other sense could be a little run of the mill, but I'm sure somebody wants to do something. But in the process, having started your journey with Bangalore, with the current minister's idol, or rather the guru, Mr. Krishna, to now talking about the protege, what do you feel has been the journey of Bangalore to this day today?
So let's take the starting point of the SM Krishna era, if we can call it that, which was 2000 to 2004. So relatively recent modern history in that sense. And as you said, the current Bangalore minister is an admirer of, and he was his UDD minister at that point of time.
He was also called the de facto chief minister for a while, because he was the go-to man.
That you would know more about than a guy like me was looking at what we could do for Bangalore. So we had the Bangalore Agenda Task Force at that time. BATF. And it was really a novel experiment, one of its kind, where a set of people from outside of government were invited and said that, look, can you work with the government agencies and do something for Bangalore?
Who invited you?
SM Krishna, basically it was a government order.
Himself, or
he actually set up, he set up a committee, the BATF, with Nandan Nilekani as the chairman, and Nandan in turn built a small team of about 4 of us who were the core team for BATF. It had other members, but if I could call it a working team for 4 years, it had Naresh Narasimhan, Kalpanakar, Ramesh Ramanathan and me, apart from Nandan, of course, being the head of the task force. And the idea really was that, can we cross-pollinate ideas from the private with the government, and can we find a path ahead which works for the betterment of the city? That was broadly the intent and idea.
Here you had one person who had an MBA, another an entrepreneur, and another an architect, and the fourth person was somebody who was running an NGO.
Right.
But did you really feel a sort of connection between yourselves? Because I'm sure the first problem must have been that you were seen as aliens.
So in fact, I remember the early, of course, out of the 5, actually 4 of us I think knew each other. Ramesh was relatively new to the city. But I must tell you what happened in the first meeting when we were called and we sat. We looked at each other and said, what do we know about how a city runs, what do we know about how government works? The answer really was Zippo.
But the most curious thing was that you really fell in place, in the sense you really fit your roles, and you became the convener, didn't you?
Not really. I mean, actually, I think Kalpana did more of the convener role. I did play a role also. All of us played complementary roles. During that period, I was associated with the self-assessment scheme of property
But that
tax.
was quite successful.
Yes, it was,
Wasn't it? And you were
I'm
very
happy.
proud of having been part of that.
Yeah, in fact, I was the one on, actually, I still remember January 24th, 2000, when I made a presentation that we need to implement the self-assessment scheme. And the Chief Minister at the end of that first summit of the BATF said that I'm instructing the Bangalore Municipal Mahanagar Palike, that time it was BMP, to implement this by 1st of April of the same year. So that definitely was a very high moment.
But you started, watching the way it was being implemented. You were actually spending some time in the BBMP, okay, then BMP. And your moment of glory was also that, other governments from other states were inviting this to be implemented in their cities too.
Answer is yes. And therefore, I want to deconstruct what was the idea of BATF, because we also got bashed up by civil society.
Bashing up was more than the encomiums and praise.
That is true. And because they really said that, it's an elite capture of city body and decision making, which it wasn't. Actually,
it's the same thing that you hear now too.
It always comes up.
The first meeting itself of Shiv Kumar's,
yes,
people said that he is planning to create some kind of an elitist, what do you say, lobby.
Not really. Actually,
people,
I mean,
most of them from software industry.
So I will actually jump to the present. If I really look at what the current Bangalore Minister, Mr. D.K. Shivakumar, has done, I think he has done taken the right steps. He initially met all the departments under him. Then he had a meeting with the MPs and MLAs on Bangalore, what needs to be done. Yes, he did call a meeting of 42 people, which were mainly industry people, real estate people, which could clearly be seen as elitist. But he also made a statement that I intend to reach out to other groups also. I mean, then he's been caught up with this thing, but he clearly, publicly, even in that meeting said, I intend to hold 2-3 similar meetings with civil society and others. He also basically put out an ad asking for public suggestions. I understand about over 20,000 suggestions have come in on ideas for Bangalore. So there was an outreach. So you can't fault him for the things that he's done. And he's been in the field.
Then?
No, the complaining really is when you call 42 people of a certain strata of society, the elite for lack of a better word, there will always be a criticism that what understanding do they have of what it means to live at a lower part of the
Isn't
scale.
there some truth in that too? Because see, there has been this resentment about these so-called elite, particularly the software ones, because a lot of Bangaloreans feel that those people were given all kinds of privileges and importance and concessions, most importantly, and they seem to be, even after all, they've just been lecturing the governments, and instead of trying to really understand, because most of the lands that were given were of people who were just ordinary, and their problems remain the same, and these people zip from wherever to whatnot, and ultimately they have remained quite aloof, if not aliens, like I said in the beginning.
I'm not getting into the land allotment, which is a government policy about allotting land.
I mean, the kind
but
of
if I take
resentment.
BATF, for example, as a proxy of what BATF did, in my view, despite the criticism, see, the government of the day has a right to set up bodies that it believes will help it. They've been elected, so they take a decision that I will set up a task force like this. It's their call. It's not that we are standing in queue and say, please set this up or something. But having been
and
called...
you can't find fault with everything that the government does unless you actually see the result.
And
like in case of BATF.
So let me tell you BATF. Let me just reel out 5 or 6 broad achievements. Under the BATF thing, the self-assessment scheme of property tax, about 30 Nirmala toilets, which became the precursor of other toilets, were built during that period. If you take in terms of today, we still talk about segregating waste at source. The first ideation of that idea came on the BATF platform, which Kalpana Kar developed and drove. Ramesh Ramanathan came up with a fund-based accounting system, which while Bangalore did not adopt it, the CAG in the center was interested and made it a model way to do municipal accounting across the country. So it found traction more at a national level than Nestle.
He was more into microfinance, wasn't he?
He was.
So he was able to understand these
Because he had a
things.
background in finance, etc. Then, not many people know, but that was a time when Mr. Jaikar Jerome in the BDA, I mean, apart from the outer ring road, etc., which came at that time where BDA did those projects, also rejuvenated Lal Bagh to secure it for the next 100 years. Let me tell you what happened at Lal Bagh. Roughly, if I remember right, about 18-20 crores was spent. There was a STP set up. The lake was dredged and filled. Now you have a perpetual source of water from the STP. Sprinklers were put such that the gardens will get water in perpetuity out of that lake which is there. The glass house was redone. Now this, people have just forgotten that this was an activity also which happened under the BATF umbrella.
You know, one of the problems I see was with the whole thing was that Mr. Krishna talking about the Singapore model.
That is.
And that spoiled everything for Bangalore, because people started feeling that, you know, Bangalore could not have a Singapore model because, first of all, that's a city state and this is supposed to be a capital. And somewhere people started fearing that Mr. Krishna had the idea of making Bangalore a different, some kind of a union territory altogether. And so the resentment became harder and harder.
In fact, his mention of Singapore was unfortunate. Frankly, it was not required. But I can tell you, the five of us who worked when we met after that statement, we said at the minimum, let's try and get Little India standards of Singapore, which within the Singapore context is what I would call relatively, I mean, more rundown, and they've tried to do. So we tried to make the best of a bad situation.
But didn't you know that, you know, a Singapore model was just impossible in Bangalore? But at best, you could have made it the best city in India.
That is correct. And basically,
I think the very the lofty ideas of these things, that itself derailed some of the best motives.
See, the thing is, he did make that statement, so we can't walk away from it. It ideally should not have been made because, as you rightly said, we have to be what we can be, and we have to draw inspiration and examples from our own culture, our own ethos and background.
Because being somebody like you, like who tries to understand the common man, whether people credit you with that kind of an intention or motive or whatever, but still that, you know, you always, even observing you on other occasions, should have somewhere tried to see that the engagement of the general public was most important in a case like this, because sometimes the government itself behaves like a master and the rest of the, you know, the electorate as kindergarten kids. Because, you know, I mean, they may not be well-to-do, they may not be elitist, they may not be so educated, but they still have an idea about their own city.
They definitely have.
Every person
They definitely have.
has an opinion.
And I believe in the wisdom of the crowds, tribal wisdom, whatever you want to call it. There's a whole lot of wisdom of what needs to be done to really grow in a sustainable manner. On the BATF thing, we actually ran close to about 6 or 7 half-yearly summits. And what was unique about it is that summit was, okay, it was at one level a broadcast of what are the plans and what's going to be done, but it was an accountability platform where the government agencies said, you can expect from me this and this over the next 6 months. And 6 months later, they came back and reported on it. So there was an outreach. The whole challenge in this whole citizen participation idea is, in a city of 10 to 12 million, what are the mechanisms by which you can source citizens? So, for example, we used to do market surveys with sample sizes of 1,000 for each half yearly to try and see what are the things that are troubling you and are things even remotely getting better. So we tried to use scientific survey methods to get feedback, but yes, did we do, let's say, local town halls in 70 parts of Bangalore? The answer is no. I mean, I don't think we had the bandwidth or this thing to do it.
Do you think it was also probably because the government, let alone the CM, the government in general, did not, you know, speak for you? I think it was required that Mr. Krishna would come out and talk about BATF, which he didn't. Rarely, you know, things were mentioned and also were like praised or perhaps even implemented, but he did not champion it, the cause of BATF, though it was started by him.
You know, I wouldn't agree with that totally, because all our 7 summits that happened wouldn't have happened if he hadn't given his stamp of approval. The agencies wouldn't have.
Approval is a different. He was not the face of it. If he had been the face of it, it would have been an entirely
No, but
different...
there's a challenge
he
there.
somewhere actually was on the back foot.
No, but he's the chief minister of the state.
No, I understand.
And there are urban, rural.
No, because he had the intention for Bangalore, but at the same time, he was on the back foot when it came to, spearheading the interest of Bangalore, because the criticism was becoming a little too much about his interest in Bangalore and trying to
the
promote
exclusion of
IT,
others.
to the exclusion, and always everybody, even to this day, like Mr. Mohandas Pai speaking about, Bangalore contributing. So Bangalore is not just about economic contribution. Bangalore also survives because of feeding that it gets from the whole state.
Right. I know that. There are
So
migrants and
the
people.
health of the state, it may not be giving you the economy, but it's giving you...
I'm no one to talk about why he did what he did, but I can understand his perspective that he needed to be the chief minister across the state and therefore could not just embrace one urban area in the state and say this is it. Though he did get tagged because Chandrababu got tagged with Hyderabad, and that happened as a
that was
sideshow.
also his undoing. So you know how much he did for Hyderabad, and ultimately Hyderabad was not able to stand for him.
So therefore, come back to the question that you raised. When you enter and get involved in things like the BATF, like I was involved, and I have subsequently over the last 23 years worked on and off with the government in a pro bono capacity, as you know. One thing I've realized in this space, criticism comes with the territory. And as long as you are clear between you and the mirror and your conscience that you're being inclusive, you're doing the right thing given a chance, I think that is what you have to live with, because criticism is par for the course.
It's not about criticism, Ravi, because here I think the important thing is about having related to the demands of, or rather the real requirements of the general public, and if you had actually taken care of that primarily, everything else would have just been
But
easy.
if you see the things, we promoted buses.
People are not so much interested.
No. The middle class,
I'm talking about the taxes. Reformation of taxes would be the last thing.
But you got the revenue inspector.
You got more taxes paid.
No, we also got the revenue inspector out of the person's life. So it was a big plus. Even today, if you go and poll people, they like the self-assessment scheme. But if you look at, for instance, whether it's garbage or buses or toilets, most of the initiatives we did actually was lower middle class kind of benefits. Those public toilets.
Even with the buses, you did something really unique, didn't you?
So we actually pushed for a whole lot of, we started talking about direction-oriented buses.
And the bus stops.
The bus stops was done during that period.
For the first time, you started seeing some good ones, which actually disappeared after some time.
But that's a different reason. But anyway, that's all in the past.
Dustbins.
That's all in the past.
I think HIMARS lights too.
Some of the HIMARS lights.
And also the way you used to have these electric poles, not the poles, some of these kiosks.
But therefore, my point really, Deepak, just to close the BATF, while the people looked elitist, the outcomes were anything but elitist, but maybe we did a poor job of communicating that our outcomes were non-elitist. There was no social media at all at that point of time.
Okay, now coming to what effort is being made. See, if things have not happened in 23 years, and if Bangalore has been resisting in a way to any kind of systemic change, it's almost remained the same what it was 23 years ago in terms of its problems. Only the number of people have increased. You still have problems with footpaths, to roads, to bus stops,
to garbage,
to garbage, to everything. That means there is something that is endemically, wrong.
Yes, it is. So since you mentioned systemic, it's an area of huge interest to me because I've spent close to 5 years of my life writing a report on reimagining how Bangalore should be governed and administered. There was the BS Patil committee of which I was a member. We did 4 years of work. And we are right now also again looking at it. To understand this, it is going to get much worse unless we reform our governance and administration. Unfortunately, nobody has the bandwidth or the attention span to apply their mind on what needs to be done here. It is not glamorous. It is not sexy. But it is the basic scaffolding or the foundation block without which it cannot be done. And let me amplify a little bit. We have a constitutional defect. Going back to our original formation of the constitution, they set up the central government and the state government as the first tier and second tier of government. Unfortunately, when they came to the third tier, instead of calling out the third tier of government as a tier of government, they used the expression local bodies, whether it is local bodies in the rural area or urban. They did not give it a status of a third tier of local government. And why this is unfortunate is, if you go back to pre-independence India,
As opposed to Mr. Gandhi's idea of starting the government from the bottom
up. And I want to give you names. Rajaji, Sardar Patel, Nehru, Bose, Rajendra Prasad, all of them pre-independence, before we got our constitution, they cut their teeth in municipal council as local leaders. They grew their wings there before they went to national politics. So we had a history of towering leaders like that starting life in urban municipal, Rajaji in Salem and Nehru in Allahabad and Bose in Calcutta and the like. So we had those kind of examples, but when we finally came to deciding when it was time to govern, we just didn't have the confidence that we can give the powers to the local. So what therefore became the third tier, or which doesn't exist, which is a local body, became a vassal of the state government. So consequently, the state government
got tired of it instead of...
No, not tired. See, so what happens is...
Because there were too many problems at the local level, they would rather have all these overarching goals for the state and make these very large policies and completely ignore
No, so I'll tell you what they did, for example. Let me give you an example. Okay, BMP, when it was Bangalore Municipal Corporation, BMC, you can't handle this thing, water and sewerage, I'll set up the BWSSB. So each thing, they started setting up what's called parastatals, which is outside the BBMP. Even later, they have set up something called the Bangalore Solid Waste Management Authority Company. That's because they're saying you can't handle garbage properly, I will take it out. You will not be able to handle electricity in Bombay. Electricity is handled by the corporation, by BST. I will take it out and set up BESCOM. You can't handle the transport, I will set up BMTC. Because if you see Bombay, transport, etc., comes under the corporation. So we don't have, so what you then do, what you have left in the BBMP, in my rough estimate, BBMP impacts less than 40% of my life. Because let me tell you, for water sewerage, it's outside BBMP. Electricity, outside BBMP. I want to travel, metro, bus, etc., outside BBMP. Law and order, traffic, outside BBMP. You name it.
But wouldn't it also become a kind of concentration of all these things under one head, which could also become dangerous, because we also have the problem.
But it's okay at the state government level. It's okay for the state government to have the... You just... What is the construct you're making? You're making a construct that this arrangement of a CM and a cabinet, etc., is okay at the state government level. We don't have it in the third tier.
They are visible, Ravi.
No, but in the third tier,
because 90% of the time,
if you incentivize Deepak, the third tier in the true sense of the term, I foresee Deepak being the mayor of Bangalore. Why not? Because the incentive structure, because you can bring about change, you can do it. People like you will say, what am I sitting in a TV studio? Let me go and make an impact in Bangalore. But it is all, I gave you those 5-6 names. They were all members of municipal councils, and from there they become national leaders. The question is, if you emasculate the third tier of local government,
like for instance,
then you will get the corporators that you get.
When you have the mayor, literally without any powers, without even being very sure of what the tenure is.
Except to be called worshipful.
Yeah, worshipful. And that is what, and also wear that gown which is more like a very, what do you say, a parody of our democracy, because you're wearing something from the times of yore.
Right.
So we are not even modern in that, in the sense that you don't have a Bangalore.
Which is why our report, frankly, according to me, it's transformative in the way we have imagined it, and I'm happy to amplify it, which I'd like to amplify if you give me the chance. The limited point I want to make at this point before you ask me the next question, if Bangalore continues to go down, hold the December elections with a single BBMP and the same system, we are hurtling towards greater and greater disaster. I have an expression now. If we continue with the same model...
What could be the solution? In the sense, if you're talking about a powerful mayor, like some kind of a CEO for the city, elected, and still when you have these corporators or councillors who want to have a stake in literally everything and who basically run the areas like fiefdoms. In the sense, I was talking to one of the Bangalore ministers a few years ago, and when I was asking him why could not they get a company like L&T to build the roads in Bangalore, he said they won't allow us to survive even for a day because they want roads like that. And they don't want us to have a say in the business of building roads, to footpaths, to the drainages, because if you want any kind of support from them, you need to let them be and run things the way they want to.
So which is the dysfunctional model of the current? So my point is, if we continue down the same dysfunctional path,
going to be dangerous.
which is no, then I am selling deck chairs on the Titanic. You can sit on the deck and watch Bangalore go down like the
But
Titanic.
one of the
That is really what is going to
One of the
happen.
examples people take is of Chicago, like, you know, which was quite a complex
I know
city
that.
with a lot of problems, but still it ran very well. Is that what people say?
No, actually, I don't want to take international example.
I'm
because
saying, but, you know, when
Chicago,
people look-
I mean, they had the whole lot of underworld,
Which
etc. There was a whole
which is a
cleanup.
city that you would certainly compare Bangalore to, in the sense, you know, this could be that
So
could
for
be
us,
perhaps a model.
In our work,
even in a
London has
distance.
been the model.
But London is a very different country because, for instance, even to this day, people can't understand how you can have narrow roads and still not have traffic jams.
That's because that is exactly where the answer lies in public
That's
transport.
when you started this tender shore.
No, but that's for the footpaths. Tender show for footpath was the thing. See, the point, Deepak, which I want to make here is the first thing is you can't build can you build a building without scaffolding? Can you build a building without foundation? Yes or no? So you have to spend some time on understanding the foundation and scaffolding before you build a building, whether it looks like Vedant Sauda
What could
or
be the scaffolding?
Yeah, let me tell you the scaffolding. So the scaffolding today is, if you want outcome, the most important thing you require in I think we have suggested a 3-tier structure where at the highest level there's something called the Greater Bangalore Authority. If you ask me only one reform, even with a single corporation, I'll say set me the Greater Bangalore Authority at the apex level, which has the political leadership, I mean the CM, the Bangalore minister, etc., at the political leadership, and all the parastatals, which I told BWSSB, BESCOM, plus the mayors of the corporation also in terms of this thing. So they are also represented in this particular place. So the Greater Bangalore Authority, what they do today, we are having all of them work at cross purposes. See, if you have, let's say, an orchestra and no conductor, which is, we don't have that conductor, all you're having is noise. You need a conductor to create music. And the Greater Bangalore Authority and someone like Mr. D.K. Shivkumar, as somebody is spearheading as the vice chairman of such a body, can really set.
If Krishna could not do it, do you think?
But he didn't have a Greater Bangalore Authority.
No, I'm saying he could have done anything because he had.
But that time the thinking was not there.
See, I feel. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. The most important thing that we are lacking, more than a Greater Bangalore Authority, or even more than a structure, a scaffolding, anything, we don't have an idea of policies.
It'll come from there. See, the Greater Bangalore Authority is the local.
But you need to have a vision for that.
No, it's a local planning
for instance,
authority.
If you actually have that authority and you're only speaking for buildings and the land, by completely forgetting there are people living.
No, so it's a local planning. See, in our imagination, the Greater Bangalore Authority is the local planning authority for the Bangalore, this whole area, the Bangalore metropolitan area. So they are going to take decisions. So all aspects that you're talking about, policy, etc., comes because they are a local planning authority. They will also implement that policy. Today the problem is, we might do a good talk, but our implementation arm is very, very weak. So because we do a good talk and our implementation arm is very weak, you see the kind of mess that is happening. They need to go hand in hand. You have to be able to walk the talk. Today we don't have a vehicle which can basically have that vision, have a policy that can realize the vision, and have the implementation agencies buy into that vision and implement. We don't have that. We have a BBMP, we have these various parastatals, and all of them are doing their own thing.
See, would it actually be possible to do something like that with most of the people? For instance, senior officer, I can actually mention, a commissioner of Bangalore was telling me at one point that more than 80% of buildings in Bangalore are in violation of the building norms. And somebody else was telling me recently, in Jayanagar, for instance, like people are okay with anything as long as the politicians don't come in way of their illegal structures, and don't question them about their footpath gardens, and don't stop them from getting their dogs poop in front of somebody else's house. Then you're actually a very nice person, and they won't come to your domain questioning you about your misdemeanor or your corruption and things like that, and you just leave them alone. So with such kind of brazen indifference, do you think it's actually possible to even think of a policy, for instance, like footpath? Like I was talking to a few people don't have an idea what kind of footpath actually suits Bangalore. Like Bangalore's,
No, but we did the tender show, for example.
You did.
To show.
But you know very well, there was a lot of resistance to that.
There was, obviously. Again, it was in terms of, funnily, it also came from vehicle people who suddenly felt, honey, they shrunk my lane kind of stuff. But the reality is, we need to have a model of vulnerability planning. We need to plan for vulnerable people. On the streets, that is both the pedestrian and the licensed street hawker, both of them are the vulnerable.
There are very few licensed street hawkers.
No, but it's allowed under the law, under the constitution.
There are very few licensed
I know,
street hawkers.
but the thing is, they should not be harassed, etc. Should be the order of the day. But they live an uncertain life is the reality. But the pedestrian, of course, is very vulnerable. They could lose their life literally crossing the road.
But that's happening too.
I know that. So you need to plan on that.
There's no insurance from the city that you can break your nose or break
insurance is one thing, but at least you can start planning for
insurance.
footpath.
I'm talking about some kind of a remedy. See, the question is that you have seen a lot of things happen from Mr. Krishna's time, and most importantly, the metro.
Right.
And you were so much against metro going overland because you
I used to say, bury the metro, bury the metro.
I know that you even wrote an article about it. But then people were in a hurry to bring metro.
Correct.
And they were trying to save just about 3,000 crores or something like that in taking it underground. And today you have this grotesque lines running all over, grey and bad, and sometimes they are built so badly and uneven, and even the buildings are crumbling, and literally in front of every metro station you have somebody having spat beetle juice to debris to everything. Literally it's a mess, and somehow it's running. Of course people like metro, but like that, when everybody said they could have actually waited for 2 more years and put together the money.
See, there's not only the money, it's also the vision. See, I'll tell you, metro worldwide, on day one, you actually plan a 500-kilometer network. You may implement over 40, 50 years, but you design the network, you decide which parts are underground, which parts are interchange station. You do that at the very beginning.
But at the same time, your own friend, Mr. Jacob Jerome, who was in charge of BDA, like what happened with the Richmond Circle flyover.
That was not his. It was a BBMP flyover.
No, but I think that he was
Mr. Jerome basically helped build the Hebbal flyover. But that time the airport was not there.
Krishna in the car.
No, there was Hebbal, there was the Jayadeva flyover.
But how
near the dairy.
There could have been such a stupid mistake with
that was the city corporation thing.
No, but how could have they done something like that?
That is how we plan.
How you were allowing it to be built for all.
No, not
and
we.
What happened with Jayadeva? You build such a big flyover and then you demolish it.
That is because the metro.
You have to foresee it, right?
No, but the city loves the metro. See, that's what I'm trying to say. If in the first place you had designed the 500-kilometer network on where is going where, what is going where, you would never have the Jayadeva kind of incident because you would have planned the whole network. You would have planned the interchange stations. For the longest time, all of Bangalore thought the only interchange is going to be Majestic Station, which is ridiculous. Today in Bangalore, in MG Road, you have a situation because of our planning. The underground metro, which is coming down Brigade Road, goes down to Kamaraj Road. It is going to be 1 kilometer away from the overground Plaza Theatre, MG Road, which is overground. This is going to be 2 levels underground and 1 kilometer away. So your interchange is 2 levels below to 2 levels above.
You perhaps have seen it in France, like it connects two areas.
But normally both should have been done underground. That was the case to take the metro underground in MG Road in the first place.
This is not rocket science actually,
But-
because it's done all over the world.
we
You've
have
seen
messed-
it in Munich, have you?
But we have messed it up already. So we have
Four
messed it-
levels of
exactly.
train stations, and they're working perfectly fine, and people can move from one station to the other and not even touching the heritage buildings on top.
So we have messed it up, Deepak, big time.
But who
And there is
missed
no
it? Who
comeback.
missed it? Officers, politicians, because sometimes
Like, you see, you
the
need
officers
you,
are too
you I
clever
always
and they
say
have BATF.
I said you need leaders with vision who will say that, look, let's go ahead and spend so much more money, because in the long see, when you do
Because planning is not convenient.
No, the infrastructure, you need to plan for 75, 100
Planning
years.
is not beneficial to any politician.
75 to 100 years you have to
Ravi,
take a view.
isn't it true actually?
And then all
because
depends on-
many politicians don't want so much planning at all. Then you can't start your job.
No, I know
because
that. They
you
want
need to
projects.
start
They
things.
love projects.
You
That's
got it?
all
Yeah.
okay. But the starting has to be within a larger plan, which you have to spend some time. It's the same hurry where you want to just say city must work, but you're not willing to spend attention on a greater Bangalore authority or what is required. We have suggested multiple corporation wards. Nobody wants to get into the details of what one is suggesting. Now, for example, if you see the BBMP, the current system of standing committees that they have got is the most dysfunctional, but we are just persisting with it. We are persisting with something that doesn't work. We have master plans that don't work, and we are continuing to persist with the
What
same
was
aspect.
your plan for Metro? Because you wrote a lot of articles.
So my plan for
you,
Metro,
you very
in my
vociferously
imagination of the
started talking
Metro,
about it.
till the outer ring road, it would have been underground. It would have cost maybe about 25,000 crores more, but
Totally.
for the underground, overground, compared to what they are spending right now, it would have cost more money.
But that's not too much for a city.
But if you take a 75-year view and low-cost loan, on the state budget, it would have been an impact of about 1,000 to 1,500 crores per year. Per year. We are now talking about this guarantee, etc., coming to about 50,000 crores. So for 1,000 to 1,500 crores more impact per year,
You'd have had-
till outer ring road, you would have been underground. It would have given more road space overground. And if you've seen the underground stations, the metro footprint is also much less. The stations are low level. It's a lot neater. You just emerge from the underground. We have, in fact, Charles Correa famously said that with Bangalore's decision to take the metro overground, this was the last speech he made before he died at IISc, Bangalore has been set back 100 years because it
And
lacks
it's
the
become
visionary.
ugly too. And most
Ugly is one,
politicians
aesthetics
can't
is
see
one
it.
thing.
Yeah.
See,
and
if I-
that's also because we talk about Bangalore as a beautiful city.
See, for example, I'm sure Lal Bagh, Hyder Ali's accountant would have said, sir, we cannot afford Lal Bagh because we don't have money. Hyder Ali, in all likelihood, would have sacked that guy and still made it happen. Leaders with vision find a way to make that right vision happen.
No, what this also has been a kind of a question that people have been asking for a long time, that why they could have not. Was it like most of the politicians want to also show these things, not just do it, but be seen doing it, in the sense, when you build these metro stations and things running overground,
Maybe.
it's actually to
I
tell
don't think
people,
so.
I built it, look at the
No, I don't
kind
think
of
so. I don't think that was a thing. I don't think anybody spent any time.
monstrosity that I built.
You see a place like Dubai, the pillars of the metro are a work of art, which is
I've
overground.
seen that in Austria also.
Even if you
like
go to Cochin,
Vienna.
the pillars are still lighter. Our pillars have been designed with a very high factor of safety. As a result, it's become much thicker. It's got that ribbed kind of structure. So
and
the
structural
aesthetics.
engineering would have really taken care of all these things.
Aesthetics,
It's almost
exactly.
like a politician sat and drew those pictures.
But but the advantage of higher cement and steel is a higher project cost also. So it's unfortunate, but this is now a legacy that is here to stay with us.
Okay, then did you also oppose the steel flyover?
I definitely was against the steel flyover. I was on the
Why?
street. See, my point really is we need a composite solution for vehicular movement. This point-based solution, all it does, you would have lifted the traffic from Hebbal flyover. And remember, the steel flyover started after Hebbal from the airport and not before, which is where the jam was. So the jam before Hebbal was not being solved by the
You
steel
still
flyover.
had the jam.
The jam, you came out of that jam.
Why was it so?
Because nobody thought that we needed to take it to that side, okay? First, I'm just telling you. So the first thing is the steel flyover started after the jam. and was depositing everybody at Chalukya Circle. You wouldn't have been able to move at Chalukya Circle. That would have been so many vehicles converging there, trying to get onto the flyover or evacuate themselves on the flyover. See, flyovers are known to push a point from this point to the next point. You have just deferred the problem. In my imagination, there's a concept called traffic calming measures. See, what Bangalore needs, it is still going to take you 1 hour, 15 minutes to reach the airport. These are things, all we are looking for.
Why did people lie that it was going to just take 42 minutes? And that's what the officers said, the politicians said, the proponents of this idea of having an airport outside the city said, but it never was the case. Maybe even in the best case scenario, you took about 50 minutes to about
1 hour
an hour.
it takes.
So,
from Chalukya Circle.
But why was the need? See, there was. Do you see?
We always overstate the benefits. That's always, it's a political reality.
No, but even when they were building the airport, they first should have actually taken care of the traffic.
Exactly. So the airport project should have been both an airport project and connectivity project, as a joint project. That is the mistake.
And every time that there is knee-jerk, project,
which is why in metro, now they are doing it. I've always believed in metro. The metro project must include walking 500 meters from the metro station in all directions. Should be part of the metro project.
Under the metro?
No, not under. Even on the roads.
Okay.
Put the cost of the footpaths.
I've seen it in Bangkok. Like you can actually
but even if not there, even overground, I'm just saying the metro needs to think. But today in our silos, the metro is not bothered how people come there and leave. They just bothered about the metro.
No, we are only talking about structural problems, right? Ravi, would it also be that we are not looking at the government, systems, for instance, the police? You know very well that today, like completely the regulation of traffic being taken care of by the cameras. So people are like, they are not aware of even being monitored till they get a fine.
Right.
That means you'll continue to do that mistake day in and day out till you're one day, handed out the challan, or you get the list of fines. And even then you wait for some time because you may get the concession.
Right.
So till there is vehicular, regulation, is it actually possible for you to even think of, not having these traffic jams? Because I was just watching today, we were going on a one-way road and people are coming on the other side too. It's like, this brazen...
So this brings a basic point, and it relates to something you earlier spoke about, citizenry and, doing gardens on footpaths and all that stuff. See,
but don't you think that also needs to be built into it?
But people...
Like I've seen in some of the foreign countries, like, people are very afraid. Like, in Slovenia, of which you are the consular, honorary consular. See, don't you think so? That even there, but even in very small places, people are afraid of...
No, but when we go outside, we behave, we are different when we are here. See, we are also to blame. It's just okay to say government not working, government. If people see who is jumping traffic signals, who is littering the streets, who is building those violation kind of stuff on footpaths, it's citizens. You said 80% building violations. Who is making it?
They're
citizens.
not being punished.
See, that way you're rationalizing because they're not punished, they're doing done. But there is something which says that you do the right thing by the rule of law. We don't have that concept of following the law of the land. Culturally,
now, how do you get it done?
So therefore, you need to penalize. So therefore, you need to have implementation of rule of law without fear of favor. So if you are doing if you are doing Rajakalve demolition, it doesn't matter whose house comes on the way, it has to go down. In fact, if you see the example of Surat after the plague where S.R. Rao fixed the place, the buildings that he brought down first were the richest influential building. And when people saw that the richest influential buildings were being brought down, the rest of the violators said, I accept that my building has to go.
But would it actually be possible in a situation like ours where it all matters as to, who you know, and you can save your whatever?
That is one thing, but the point is we are talking
when you're talking about a political leadership, even for a greater Bangalore authority, ultimately these are the politicians who know people, who they want to be good with, who have people in their good books.
See, the thing there, Deepak, what we are ignoring, it's quite possible that...
So would you rather have a non-political person who is an authority, who perhaps reports...
you can have an executive CEO who is technically qualified, all that is fine. But the problem is politics, the answer is politics. Today, if you have the right political will, if the CM and the DCM who's in charge of Bangalore look at it as a legacy making initiative.
But do you actually see something like that?
I see it. I see the possibility that they do realize that they could actually settle. See, for example, if you go to Panchayati Raj, you had Raghunandan speak to you earlier. So if you see Abdul Nazir Saab, who initially brought, so Karnataka was the pioneer, and later on what came as the 73rd Amendment, the seeds were what he did in Karnataka, which got embraced. There is no reason that why, let's say, a city like Bangalore cannot embrace the right governance model, and that becomes a model for the rest of India.
Say, perhaps it's possible because with Mr. D.K. Shivkumar, who also has Kempegowda in his name, D.K. is Kempegowda. So he also wants to, have a legacy.
I think so. I think so.
But only thing is that, but the system, the political system doesn't allow it. That's not allowed a lot of people. Even it doesn't allow Mr. Modi to do things.
But he has a track record. I mean, talking about the Bangalore minister.
When he says something like, when he said recently that you should have bulldozed, like something.
Again, unfortunate.
And that, no, even if he wants to do something like that, it doesn't work like that.
I know.
Correct.
I know.
A political leader cannot, we are not living in some kind of a 15th century dispensation, right?
So I think he was making it more in a sense of, if we have to do something, we have to get it done. For example, from what I gather, the Pavagada solar plant, he did it in 2 years, which is one of the largest solar plant in the thing.
Yeah, it's
so when he sets his mind to it, he has shown the ability to pull it. That statement that I will bulldoze my way, I couldn't care about opinion, is unfortunate. But, we all do make unfortunate
But
statements.
what he said, there was something else. In fact, after that, when people started criticizing about him having met some people from some class or creed or stratum, I think he had something else to say, like, it was just the beginning. He was also exploring things. He did not, he must have had just a vision, but just talking to people, you can't really set an order about, who should be spoken to first and who should be spoken after and things like that.
We all want an empowered mayor.
He also has this, I think he certainly has an idea, because another thing is that he's been an entrepreneur. So he understands how a city should function.
See, I would put it this way, having 23 years, having worked in the system and seen various people, if he cannot pull it off, I'm doubtful anybody can. Because I have seen him in terms of what ideas he's got, etc. His ability to literally get things done which he wants once he sets his mind on it. So, if he is unable to pull it off, I'm very skeptical whether anybody else can.
How was Mr. Modi not able to do it with his smart city ideas? Smart city, according to me, has been an utter failure in a lot of places.
See, the problem on smart city,
it's not even taken off, and it's just ended up with a lot of debris being created everywhere, and a lot of mess, because some of the good things were spoiled and some of the bad things were brought in.
The smart city, you got to understand the genesis of the smart city, which came as an offshoot of Amrut, which came from JNNURM, etc. At the end of the day, the budgets behind smart city was less than 1% of what a city needs to fix itself. So the smart city was supposed to be an example of what can be done differently, so that you could do other things differently with the rest of the money. And the other problem with the smart city, it became a lot of tech enabling command and control center that became an important element of the smart city, which again gave it a feeling as though tech can fix the city.
But is it actually true that not even in one city they were able to even create one model for anybody
So there's as a model smart city, honestly speaking, we don't have great examples. But even if you take the Bangalore smart city, people say it's badly implemented. I accept that it is not the best of implementation. But in the areas that they have built, even though it's not the best built, they've at least now have a footpath that you can walk on. So I will take those small little gains where a footpath did not exist in wherever smart city has built. Consciously, there is now a footpath. At least you got that, even though it's a badly made footpath.
But would it also be that, in Bangalore, there have been efforts to make these better footpaths, but you don't have people, not having their vehicles run on footpaths. It's actually not the people who walk on the footpaths who are actually
So which is now the
spoiling these
police are
footpaths.
mooting that it will be a criminal
No,
complaint.
that's been there for a long time.
No,
You
no,
can
they've
also
never.
take this in
No, not
Samai
photo.
and things
No,
like
no,
that.
but right now, they see the question really is there's something called mens rea. The question is if a two-wheeler goes on a footpath, can I charge him as an intention to kill? I am walking and I have this thing coming.
Because of the pedestrian rights.
I'm the pedestrian right walking. I see this thing. Can I say the scooterist has an intention to kill me?
Could it?
Because he's coming on a motorized.
Could be.
But apparently under the law, under mens rea, he's really not intending to kill you, but he's trying to drive faster to go somewhere. So the case will lose out in court, but nothing stops you from filing that case that he has a criminal intent
But
to
don't
kill.
you think in these things the BBMP should be the one that should be ensuring the
But see,
pedestrians' rights,
but-
instead of being just an onlooker? Because here
They and the traffic police.
there is a responsibility of the BBMP
Yes.
to ensure.
Yes.
Because what is government after all?
Correct.
Government is not there to just spend money and to control
But
people.
Deepak, it's
if
a very
the government
dis-
is not bothered about the rights of the people.
I agree with you, but the problem is we have a seriously dysfunctional setup that's not working, and you're hammering away that they need to do this, they need to do that. They couldn't be
But just
bothered
having
what Deepak
examples
says.
just having examples of one Mr. Modi, one Mr. Krishna, one Mr. Shiv Kumar, really may not be the kind of examples that we should be having in this country, because every government should function in a certain way.
Yeah,
It is
but-
not like, we have these like standing out
See,
examples.
people
of
must not
somebody trying to
kill,
do
but
something.
people still kill. People must not cheat, they still cheat. So at the end of the day, a civilized society works on a set of rules, rule of law, and responsible citizenship. Somewhere down the route, we also have to ask ourselves, are we each of us being a responsible citizen? On the way to the studio, did I jump a traffic signal? If I did, I'm not being a responsible citizen. Did I litter and throw something instead of throwing it in the dustbin? If I didn't segregate my waste, am I being a responsible citizen? I personally feel the journey to fix the city starts with each of us. I am not absolving government, leadership, as well as the bureaucrats of their share of blame. But all I'm saying is, let's all look into the mirror and also figure out what am I doing. And that's really the, I have this, it's too much to try and rephrase Mahatma Gandhi's thing, be the change you want
to see.
See is the word. I keep saying, be the change you want others to be. Because I'm very opinionated on how Deepak should behave. But I am not following that same thing. So I'm saying the statement of our times is be the change that you want others to be.
But do you want to, after all these frustrations and attempts and failures, perhaps not having been able to see the kind of success that you perhaps wanted to see, that you would like to still be part of things if
Without
that
a
can
doubt.
be-
I get, I call myself a patron saint of lost causes. Over the last 23 years, there are about 3 or 4 things I can point to saying these are good outcomes that I was involved in.
Like
One-
BIC.
So, no, BIC comes later. That is Bangalore International. I'm talking about in the urban space, of the government space.
Okay.
Maybe the self-assessment scheme, maybe the tender shore, the Lalbagh rejuvenation, 3 or 4 things, and one report that nobody is reading on the restructuring of BBMP. Outside of that, I think I've only got a litany of failures, including not burying the metro and stuff like that. I'm used to it. For me, I get depressed. But when I wake up in the morning, I said, today is a new day, let me try again. So I'm this eternal optimist. And the other thing that I have chosen to do personally, saying that while it is difficult to fix the hard infrastructure of the city, can I do something for the soft infrastructure of the city? So I've got involved in the Bangalore International Center for the last 14 years. I have got involved in running the Bangalore Literature Festival with 2 others for the last 12 years. So I get involved with a whole lot of NGOs. So I said, can I be involved in situations which improve the public spaces and the quality of life, where one is in control of the outcomes as opposed to government? So now if you see the distribution of time, I'm spending more time on outcomes which I'm in control of. But I've not given up.
Even
trying to
with BIC, in spite of you having Kannada shows and everything else, does it have Does it face the danger of becoming another elitist body?
No.
In the sense, the people who may have the wherewithal to contribute, but may not find it very comfortable to rub shoulders with who and who of.
So, in fact, the way BIC is structured, while we have 1100 members, all the 1100 members' contribution is philanthropy. It is not a membership like Bangalore Club. The donors who have given saying, I want to create a public space. In our imagination, the vegetable vendor is welcome to a show there. It's a fact that she will be intimidated in coming into the building, but we are not stopping. People can come to the cafe, people can come to the premises. We do 300 events per year and we don't charge 1 rupee for any of the events. And 100 of those events are performing arts. I mean,
do you pay them?
We pay honorarium to the performers.
Oh.
So we pay honorarium to the performers.
You also got some very interesting people to come and speak.
Yeah, that is also happening. We have had even Nobel laureates and the like.
And you did a lot even during the COVID lockdown.
Yes, we shifted to Zoom, we did to podcast, we pivoted very quickly online because we saw ourselves as a public square.
You said that's a 30 crore project, and
overall the building is.
You have put in your heart and soul.
It's been a labor of love. I've enjoyed doing it. There have been donors who have contributed. There have been the 1100 members who have contributed. But they have contributed to a public space for Bangaloreans. You know, at any of BIC's events, 80 to 85% of the attendees, is all free to attend, are non-members. The member turnout in any event, so if I have 200 people, not more than 30, 40 members turn up. 160 people who turn up are non-members. So we are actually a public square, which I make this argument that the Maharajas and Maharanis of yore were the patrons of arts and culture and conversations. We are the current Maharajas and Maharanis of the current times, and it is obligatory on us as elite to build inclusive spaces which is open to all. And that's really how we want to go about it.
Are you a do-gooder?
No, I'm not a do-gooder. If I have to
in the sense, how does your wife see you?
My wife sees me as another hopeless cause, saying, there he goes again, trying to tilt at windmills.
Is she more successful than you actually? Because,
Without a doubt.
She has had a great number of, glories to her.
Without a doubt. In fact, I'm known as Hema's husband, and I'm very proud of it. And I mean, I'm about 283 batch, I'm 81 batch. Professionally, she has been 100 times more successful than me, without a doubt. In terms of accomplishments, in terms of income, in terms of every respect, she has been far more successful, and I have celebrated it. I have consciously chosen
from to use the success in your failures.
No, so what I've used, as long as she, doesn't leave me, I have said that since we are financially comfortable, I like working on causes, hard infrastructure, soft infrastructure. So is it fine if I focused here? And she's been extremely supportive. So she could have well said, you also keep working and bring something on the table, etc. Rather than she took the view, you do what you like to do. And to that extent, it's been perfect because she does what she likes to do and she's been super successful in a professional world. I like what I like to do. I'm not even saying I'm remotely successful, but I plug away. And it's not a do-gooder. You know, basically where I see myself is, I see myself in a position of privilege where I have a chance to make small, micro-millimeter differences. And honestly, I am getting more out of it than what I am delivering. The joy that doing these things gives me in my head is far more than what maybe citizens are getting by having an existence of a BIC or something else. It is there, it is happening. But is that the one which I measure myself? No. I measure myself saying, am I happy doing what I'm doing? And I'll stop doing the moment I don't feel happy about what I'm doing. That's how I see myself. So not in a sense of, so that's why I never use a phrase called giving back, do-gooder. Actually, I'm taking more than I'm giving. But I like it. And that's what keeps me going in this space.
It was an experience actually. We were both talking today about so many things, and I didn't realize we've already been speaking for an hour now, and very interesting. Thank you so much, Ravi.
Thank you so much, Deepak. Thank you so much for having me.